Guys will ramble.
Can you just email me the rest of this story?
This is Just Dubs with John Dickinson.
Dickinson's an underrated talent, 100%.
On KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Yes. Happy Saturday. Welcome in. John Dickinson with you, Just Dubs. We got Raph Corral in the Daly City Studios. We got Kyle Haar on hand, as always, as well here as we go with you for the next hour, getting you up to Giants baseball, which is coming up here on the Sports Leader. The Giants and the Athletics coming up with the first pitch in the 12 o'clock hour. But we've got you covered with some Warriors basketball, not only this morning, but tonight as well, as the Dubs are back home against the Lakers. Little two-game homestand, a quickie. Lakers tonight, Clippers on Monday. And Kyle, welcome in, my man. We'll see if the Warriors can figure out a way to kind of keep things going here. They're surviving right now in this world without Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler, and some nights without Draymond Green and Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton. But they're figuring out a way to survive back to 3 games over 500, but a pretty difficult stretch, I would say, in comparison to the schedule that they've faced here over the last couple of weeks, where there have been some games that look like wins intermittently peppered in there. I don't know that we can necessarily say that for what's ahead here for the Warriors over the course of the next week, with the Lakers and Clippers at home, then a couple of days off before they go to Houston, and then Oklahoma City a week from tonight. So things are going to be getting a little bit more difficult, but we should also get some semblance of a Stephen Curry update maybe coming as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, good to be with you, JD. Good to see you, Raph, of course, always. But
Raph's
yeah,
busy,
I mean,
Raph's got calls to take, and
come on, Raph.
Just putting out fires.
Anyway, but we talked about it after the Nuggets win, about how, this team is kind of sneaky in that, I feel like they can win some games that they're not supposed to, solely based off of competitive spirit and belief and the power of friendship. But also, as we've seen in losses against the Pelicans, their lack of talent can also show. But I think it's been fun, because you've seen different guys step up, whether it's Pods or, as of last night, you see a good game from Malavi Leones, who just has not seen the court, and you've seen the emergence of Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton, and you've gotten a really consistent Moses Moody over the last 15 games or so. So it's been fun. And we'll see how they can navigate this tough stretch upcoming.
And I maintain, and look, we've talked about this a lot. It's just the fact that, the longer you have to play without Steph, in addition to not having Jimmy, and look, whether Draymond's been in there or not has been kind of a mixed bag. They're I think, navigating the different ways that maybe not having Draymond can be, beneficial on certain nights, in terms of keeping him fresh and finding the right matchups, and finding the matchups where maybe it's best to go with an Al Horford, or maybe it's best to go with the combination of Horford and Porzingis, kind of parsing through the best ways to navigate Draymond, as Draymond sort of fights through this world where he has to play without Steph, because a lot of the issues that Draymond Green has normally offensively on the court are made worse, let's just be honest, by not having Stephen Curry out there on the court with them. So a less effective Draymond, not really on the defensive side, but more so on the offensive side, can lead to kind of these planned nights off to keep him fresh. He's been dealing with this back issue, and also maybe more limited minutes on nights where he just doesn't have it in a particular matchup. Warriors could get Kristaps Porzingis back, which would be a good sign. He did go through practice yesterday, as the Warriors took Thursday off after playing on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they did have a practice yesterday back here in the Bay. And so Kristaps Porzingis officially listed as questionable for the Warriors as they'll look to go at it against the Lakers tonight. Everybody among the major players, mainly Luka and LeBron, good to go, at least at last check before I went to sleep last night, not on the injury report for the Lakers side. So this one of these Saturday night showcase games that won't necessarily have the feel that the NBA would have anticipated it have when the schedule comes out. And really the second time here in February that these two teams are matched up against each other in this Saturday night showcase, with the Warriors taking on the Lakers going back, 3 weeks ago tonight down in LA. And then they return the favor with another matchup between these two tonight at Chase Center. So we'll see what Porzingis can provide. We'll see what the Stephen Curry update provides. I know reporters on hand at practice yesterday itching for that update on Steph Curry. And again, we've kind of marked it as, 10 days. And if you go back to the time at which the 10 days was announced, 10 days is tomorrow, meaning no update yesterday. I thought maybe there could be an update today, but it sounds like the Warriors at a minimum are going to drop that update tomorrow, or maybe even wait until Monday, depending upon whether they have a practice tomorrow to give everybody the Steph Curry update. And again, I think what you're hoping for, Kyle, on that update is, again, a lot of the familiar wording: progressing well, ready to start being integrated into basketball activities.
Be reevaluated in 10 more days.
I don't know about 10 days. That you don't want. That's not what you want if you're a Warrior fan. You want progressing well, and will start to be integrated into team practice this week. And that would lead you to, I think, the belief that it's not going to be reevaluated again in 10 days. Reevaluated again in 10 days is basically we'll see after the long road trip, which is coming up in the middle of March, because at that point it would be, you would be getting, or at least hoping for, if you're the Warriors, him getting integrated into team practices right around the 11th or the 12th. And that means that, maybe at some point on the trip, I guess he could potentially come back in that instance, but it would be at least that long before you could even think about it. So again, I think as that gets dropped, whether they put it out there tomorrow afternoon if they have a practice, or maybe even Monday evening before Steve Kerr meets with the media. And just to let everybody know, I'll be out at Harmonic Brewing along with Derek Papa again here on Monday, filling in for Adam Copeland. So we love being out at Harmonic. We'll be at Harmonic tonight after the ball game. And then, of course, before the ball game, we'll be there with Dirty Work. So stop by and say hi if you're coming to the game on Monday. If you're there at the game tonight and want to stop by and say hi, we'll be right there inside Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. But yeah, you're hoping for progressing well, Kyle, and can start to be integrated into team practices and basketball activities in the coming days, which would mean next week, as in like March the 3rd, March the 4th, March the 5th, March the 6th.
Yeah, I mean, and at this point, I think, I was a little hesitant to bring back Steph like as soon as possible, just because I thought, this team has no shot to really push for the 6th seed, especially after the Butler injury. And they also don't really have a chance to slip out of the play-in, because the 5 teams that are not in the play-in currently are actively tanking. So I was hesitant to bring him back as soon as possible. But I think it is important because, well, one, I think no one has missed Steph Curry more than Draymond Green. And two, I think the team has shown and has competed in a lot of these games to have Steph Curry come back and actually try and make a push to see if they could get even the 7th seed.
Yeah, and we'll see. And I think, Phoenix is dealing with their own injury issues right now. But if you look at the math, I guess, still technically does work for the Warriors as it relates to the 7th seed. Again, I think the 6th seed and above is no shot. I think we may change our tune, or Kyle, I guess I'll speak for you, because I think it's going to be pretty difficult for the Warriors to get to 7. Although, again, it is Phoenix, so maybe Phoenix winds up falling, farther back toward 500 here as the stretch run of the season continues. And I think it probably will take that. But I think the next week here, with the 2 games against the LA teams at home, and then a couple of days off before Houston and OKC, they do play in Utah the last night of that road trip before they come home in a back-to-back. So, the next one of these games you kind of pencil as against a team actively tanking in Utah is about a week and a half away. It's a week from Monday away.
Oh, wow.
And so the Warriors are – what's that?
Oh, no. I was just like, oh, wow. Yeah, they do have a tough stretch here.
Yeah, and then the games start coming more, they start coming more, compact also when you get to, again, a couple of days off before tonight's game, and then they get a couple of days off before the first game of the road trip. But, yeah, that's going to be a tough, to have the most winnable game be at the end and on the front end of the back-to-back when you're going to be coming home. And, again, you're playing Chicago coming back off of that. So but the next games you would pencil as winnable. And look, the Warriors have shown that they can be competitive against teams that you wouldn't necessarily think that some of these games are winnable. And so we'll see how all that shakes out. But I think, for the Warriors to kind of stay afloat here and to keep the option open to potentially move up, which I really don't think is on the table, I think they're probably going to wind up more battling Portland and maybe the Clippers to try to avoid, 8 versus 9 or 8 versus 9 or 10, unless Steph is going to be coming back here in the next, let's say, week to 10 days if the evaluation goes well. So they're going to have to pick off one of these games here, I think, in the next 3, if not a couple, to be able to kind of stabilize. I mean, if you could win 2 of the next 4, basically, I mean, I think that would be outstanding if you're the Warriors, because that would mean you're still 3 games over 500, which probably puts you as close to Phoenix, as you are to Portland and the Clippers. But you drop the next 4, which is definitely always something that's going to be on the table when you look at where this Warriors team sits. And then I think maybe we start to change the conversation a little bit as it relates to just exactly what this team ultimately is fighting for. And again, you want to be 8. If you can get to 7, great. But I think at a minimum, if you're the Warriors, you want to be in that 8 spot, because it gives you the 2 chances to obviously get into a playoff series. And the top of the Western Conference is changing a little bit. You saw Oklahoma City and Denver going at it last night in OKC. Denver led for most of that game, but the Thunder wind up winning that game in overtime. And so, the Thunder maintaining their 2-game lead on San Antonio. The Rockets are right there at the top in 3rd, and Houston's actually moved in front of Denver, who suddenly is struggling, and tied with Minnesota for 4th and 5th, with the Lakers just a couple of games back. They're sitting in 6th. So I think the top 6 is pretty well set, but there is some potential movement still between 1 and 2. Not necessarily a lock to be Oklahoma City, as we thought it could have been. San Antonio could maybe flip into that top spot. They've won 11 consecutive games and suddenly look like a team that is championship caliber, maybe even as soon as this season. And then again, Houston, Denver, and Minnesota, with maybe the Lakers factored in there as well. 3 through 6, all I think would have the potential to shift. And the Lakers are going to come in reeling here a little bit. Bad week for the Lakers as they come to chase tonight. They've lost 3 consecutive games, got beat in Phoenix late the other night, got beat by Orlando earlier in the week. And so the Lakers come in a little bit of what I would anticipate for them to be desperation mode against an under-talented, undermanned Warriors squad. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. It is Just Dubs with JD, John Dickinson, here on the Sports Leader, with you for the hour, as we do have double duty today with you at Harmonic tonight. Warriors taking on the Lakers. Kristaps Porzingis questionable for that one. Did go through practice yesterday, so some good news on that front and hopefully the Warriors can get Porzingis out there. Let's do a couple of chats here, just 2 or 3 to get things started. We'll take our first time out, and then we also want to get into some other topics here throughout the course of the hour. Rusty Nail can sneak into the 8 seed. Yeah, sneak into the 8 seed, and we'll see. Does that mean OKC or San Antonio? I think the Warriors would probably welcome the San Antonio matchup, especially if they're, a little bit closer to whole, maybe with Porzingis able to play and obviously Steph coming back. Although, again, I'm not picking the Warriors to pull off some kind of miracle, we believe, upset against a team like San Antonio. But we have seen really San Antonio and the Thunder, but I think without Jimmy, obviously they're not beating any of those teams, in my opinion, in a series. But we have seen the Warriors still, even dreadfully shorthanded that final game before the All-Star break. They hung with San Antonio until San Antonio really flipped a switch on them in one quarter and kind of put them away. I think the Spurs would be the matchup. As crazy as it sounds, because I don't think anybody wants any part of San Antonio, the Warriors might be the one team that's like, yeah, we'll probably get beat, but let's take our shot with San Antonio in the first round.
I mean, also going back to last year, they defeated a young, inexperienced, kind of first time here in the playoffs Houston Rockets squad, and San Antonio has kind of made that same leap where they were in the play-in last year they fell short, right?
No, they didn't. Yeah, they shut it down. They
right, yeah.
They were in the play-in a bunch of years toward the end of the Popovich run, and but no, they've been out of it. But I'm reluctant, Kyle, to compare this team with San Antonio and Wemby and all their young talent to last year's Rockets team. I think this, because nobody was talking about Houston having a shot at maybe winning a title last year. It was more just, there were more comparisons I felt to last year's Houston team. And remember, this is pre-Durant, who joined them in the offseason on the night of Game 7 of the Finals. If you remember when that trade went down, the morning of the night of Game 7 of the Finals between Indiana and Oklahoma City. I think Houston was probably more at that time comparable to like Sacramento, who the Warriors had played, that were that fluky 3 seed going back to 2023. I think the Rockets were a better team than that team, obviously more staying power year to year, and then they go get Durant. But I think San Antonio, it's interesting. San Antonio's kind of in a world of their own right now, in terms of, the rare air of a team going from basically no playoff experience to championship contention in one season. I mean, it's just not something that you see very often throughout the league and throughout sports.
And you don't really see a player like Wemby that often either. He is,
and that's
he
why
is a unicorn.
And that's why they have the opportunity to be in the conversation even this year, to be able to potentially contend for an NBA championship. All right, let's get 2 more here. Rusty Nail, appreciate you tipping us off. Buddha Cat, I just joined the chat. Is Porzingis out again tonight? Well, Porzingis was listed as questionable. Let me double check here as we go. I clicked on the note that I had from last night, but I'm looking here, Kyle. I think he's still listed as questionable at this point. But I'm looking here, injury reports. They update these injury reports every 15 minutes, so things definitely have the ability to change, in rapid order. But I'm looking at the one from right before we started the show here for tonight, and let's see. Yeah, Porzingis is still listed as questionable as of 9:45 this morning, and I'm going to just do a quick update. It sounded like he was trending toward playing. We got the 10:15 a.m. injury report again because of the gamblers, Kyle. They update these things all the time now, and yeah, Porzingis, and I'll make sure to try to note to check it every 15 minutes, because eventually, the team will put it into the league, and in that next iteration of the injury report, it'll pop up. But you got to go through and look at the entire league injury reports. You kind of have to scroll down through everybody's injuries. But yeah, as of 5 minutes ago, Porzingis still questionable with the illness, and we'll see what ultimately happens here with him tonight. He did go through practice, according to Steve Kerr yesterday. So I think it's trending more toward Porzingis' ability to be out there than not. But we shall see here as we approach 5:30 this evening. All right, let's get one more in the chat here before we take our first time out. 808 KMBR if you want to jump in and join the conversation. Gene, I'm going to start a petition to sign Melton next season. I think the Warriors are absolutely going to look to sign DeAnthony Melton. The problem is the price point. And again, I think he is going to be non-taxpayer, mid-level exception type money, which again starts right in the $14-15 million range. And then it goes up from there. And you can get, anywhere between you can do a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, 4-year deal. Like you can do, any level of deal. But again, it would be 4 and probably close to 70, if not at the $70 million mark, if you look to make that contract, be the offer. The issue though is for the Warriors to get the availability to use the non-taxpayer mid-level, they have to duck under the tax. And there is some question as to, depending upon what Draymond Green's number is for next year, depending upon what Kristaps Porzingis number is for next year, maybe they have to let Kristaps Porzingis walk completely to get under. And then the other thing is, if you use the non-taxpayer mid-level, you become hard capped, I believe, at the first apron. So it would limit some of the ability for the Warriors maybe to make some other moves. So they're going to have to be strategic. There are ways to do it. We have talked about the fact that there are ways to duck under that, be able to offer Melton the appropriate raise, and then even keep Porzingis. But it does potentially on the back end limit the ways in which the Warriors would be able to add to their roster, especially add to their roster without making one more significant trade, even if that trade is for a player that is less than all-star caliber. But Gene, I don't think you need to start the petition. I think the Warriors internally already have. I think if they've got the big whiteboard of off-season priorities, I think re-signing DeAnthony Melton is probably at, if not close to, probably at the top of that list. So, all right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. More in the YouTube chat coming up here as we get things rolling, as Just Dubs tips off here on a Saturday. It's going to be a big day. We got you covered with the Warriors here coming up until 11 o'clock, and then Giants baseball. And then we're going to be back tonight right around 8 o'clock for Dubs OT from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It's all straight ahead right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader. This is KNBR, and this is Just Dubs with John Dickinson, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, rolling along here on a Saturday, about halfway through our Just Dubs hour here. We'll have Dubs OT for you tonight, immediately following the Warriors and the Lakers. John Dickinson back with you. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We got Kyle Harr. We got Raf Corral. We're getting closer to Giants baseball. And then again, we'll be back with you tonight right here on the Sports Leader after the Warriors take on the Lakers. Again, anticipating the Stephen Curry update coming up here throughout the course of the weekend. Maybe tomorrow, could be on Monday. And Kristaps Porzingis, we'll see if he's able to go tonight. Again, officially listed as questionable for the Warriors. Let's get a few more chats here in this segment. Kyle's Clicks in the YouTube chat, the best YouTube chat in sports, the Dubs OT and Just Dubs YouTube chat. Appreciate those hopping in here on a Saturday. I know it's a busy time with people flying around, and the weather's getting better here in the Bay after our lengthy rainstorm that followed Super Bowl week. We're back to that Super Bowl week-esque weather here in the Bay Area. Estimated eyes, how about the Denver OKC game last night, JD? Ooh, it's getting chippy out there. Yeah, how about, Jokic looked like a man possessed after Dort chipped him. It looked like a chip block. That was a brutal, I thought, dirty play for Dort. And I thought it was, in the moment, an ejectable offense because it was basically a trip. It was basically going at the knee. And it was far more than a hip check. And I know they were talking about it on the Inside the NBA show with Ernie and by the way, we have a little breaking news here. On Just Dubs. Play that breaking news sounder because this has just come through. We're talking about guys that the Warriors are they going to be able to keep? Are they not going to be able to keep? The Warriors have just sent out an announcement that they have re-signed Gui Santos to a multi-year contract extension. So you look at that, Gui Santos, somebody that's really leveled up here over the course of the recent time and getting more of an opportunity to do different things. And anytime you look at the Warriors' salaries here, and Gui Santos had the ability, making $2.2 million for 2025-26, to be, somebody that was going to get a raise. And you were kind of wondering, hey, how are the Warriors going to be able to pencil in the ability to maybe keep him with some of the other players that are going to be, even more expensive on the Warriors roster here moving forward. So that's a small, but I think, positive note for Golden State here. We'll try to dig up some of the financial terms on that, but getting that number locked in before he ends up hitting free agency. I was starting to wonder, Kyle, to be honest, like, is he going to put himself in a spot where maybe a team might come in and make the Warriors a little uncomfortable in terms of what they would have to pay, but the Warriors being proactive on this one and locking up Gui Santos, who is looking more and more like a steal in terms of a every night rotational, top 8-9 guy at your rotation type of a player.
Oh yeah. The contract extension was well-deserved. And I think, he started the season as someone who was going to be at the end of the bench, but has now played himself into really a really quality rotation piece. And I think even on a really good Warrior team, he could still have such a big impact on the game. And you think back to during the championship years, how many really good and key rotation bench players that they had. And I think Gui Santos is up there with those kind of players, because of the impact that he has had, especially once Jimmy Butler went out.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about it a bunch of times how Steve Kerr had said, hey, we're going to lean on Gui Santos a little bit more here. And so, yeah, it looks good for Gui. Gui had been on a 3-year, $5.14 million contract, making $2.2 million for this season. And so, yeah, Gui Santos, when the numbers pop out, we'll make sure to get them to you. But he could have been a free agent in the summer, and the Warriors, locking up somebody that continues to look like, a player that can be at a minimum a night in, night out rotational player, really on any team, right? And I think that's the thing. He's shown a value when the Warriors have been extremely shorthanded, but he's also shown a skill set that almost with any iteration of a team that the Warriors attempt to cobble together to be able to open that contender window even a little bit is he can fit. And so I think that's, again, it's a small move, but it's one less thing you have to worry about if you're the Warriors in the offseason. And let's be honest, this is going to be an offseason where the Warriors are going to have a lot of things that they're going to have to worry about in terms of being able to set themselves up for trying to improve.
I also, I am curious what the number is, because remember when they locked up Moses Moody for 3 years, 32, 33 mil before the season started. And it was like, ooh, that felt like a lot, but then it actually now looks like a really good value in terms of what they're getting for that price point. So I am kind of curious what the number is. And I do think like Gui's value might end up being greater than what they're giving him.
Yeah, and it does wind up being a pretty significant raise here, Shams, with the numbers leak here just within the last 60 seconds. So it's a 3-year, $15 million contract extension. So he gets $5 million a year, moving again from about 2.1 for this year. So he's going to get more than double in terms of the average annual value that he's making now. And the 3-year deal for Gui, and there's also an opt-out for Gui. So he gets 3 and 15 for sure, but then that will take him through. It'll start next year, 26, 27, 27, 28, and then he has a player option for the 3rd year. So if Gui continues to explode after the first 2 years of this deal, meaning next year and the following year, he can opt out in the summer of 2028 before that 28-29 season and get paid again. And yeah, you look at Gui, I mean, he's been, in addition to all the little things, he's been a guy that has been counted on to not only play make, as you mentioned, but score. I mean, he's been somebody that's been a double-digit scorer for this Warriors team in a time in which they've needed some double-digit scoring.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I think $5 million a year is fair, is a fair value, fair price point. But I do think he can certainly, I mean, if he continues to play that he's been doing ever since Jimmy Butler went out, I think he surpasses that value easily. And even when Jimmy Butler comes back next season and Gui goes back to the bench and maybe gets, I don't know, 15 minutes a night, I think he still brings so much value, even playing 10 to 15 a night.
Yeah, and so again, congrats to Gui Santos for the 3-year, $15 million contract extension. And joke's on you already weighing in here in the YouTube chat. Gui signing is on the pro side of Kerr staying. Yeah, I would think so. But again, I think Gui Santos is the kind of player that you'd want around regardless of, any kind of scenario of who the head coach is going to be. But I would agree with that. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, Kyle, the fact that, Steve does right now have an under-talented group by, other NBA standards in comparison, but he's got a group right now that he really likes going to battle with and fighting with on a game in, game out basis. And Gui Santos, I do think is kind of at the forefront of that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think, and I think Kerr loves this kind of player, the high energy, high spark player, and we've made the comparison to the Kuminga, and people have said in the chat, well, if Kuminga just did what Gui Santos does in terms of his motor and his energy and the spark and the impact off the bench instead of needing to warm up into the game, then he would be at a really good point where he would make a lot of money with the Warriors. But I mean, again, that didn't happen. But I think this is a good move. This is a good move.
Yeah, no question. And so Gui Santos, again, 3-year, $15 million contract. Bobby Marks of ESPN pointing out that Santos was one of 28 players who could sign an extension prior to June 30th. Otherwise, he would have become a restricted free agent. And so the Warriors able to lock him in at a price point that is a nice raise for Gui. But I agree with you. If he continues to ascend, hell, even if he doesn't continue to ascend, I think he's already kind of proven himself to be a $5 million a year player. But if he continues to ascend a little bit, even if he doesn't become a bona fide, every night starting caliber type of a player, I think there's a middle ground for Gui where he can be a really productive player. And you look back a year from now or 2 years from now, and you go, man, Gui Santos is really a bargain at basically what amounts to $5 million per year. And so we'll see. And 9 players right now under contract for the Warriors currently for next season, that not including Draymond Green, Al Horford, and DeAnthony Melton, who all have player options for the 2026-2027 season. All right, let's on the break pod, I would have thought it might be higher. Yeah, that's about, I think you can go back and check the tapes. I think there may have been one of the shows we've done in the last week, and forgive me, it might have been one of the shows where I was filling in for Copes or filling in for Papa with Greg Silver. But I think there was a point in the week where I said about 5 million a year is probably in the right range for Gui moving forward. I think I said he's going to get what Pods is going to be making next year, and I think Pods is at 5.6. So I would have put Gui at the point that Pods was set to make. Obviously, Pods is going to be somebody that the Warriors in the offseason could potentially look to be able to extend. But yeah, good number, I think, for Gui. Again, maybe a little bit more on the team-friendly side if he continues to get better. But the one thing you never know in restricted free agency, I think Gui likes it here. We talked about that throughout the course of the week. And that's a nice little payday. E&J needs some contracts like this to build a quality team moving forward. Yeah. And again, this is another example, and we'll see what happens with Pods, but the Warriors kind of getting a buy low a little bit, or at least an appropriate amount, maybe slightly team-friendly number. And I think you could make the same case that they were able to do that with Moses Moody, going back to the contract that he signed, which at the time was probably more than Moses Moody should have gotten in terms of the yearly value. But it was an indicator that the Warriors were confident that Moses Moody was going to start playing, more consistently than maybe he had been to that point in time. And we've seen him really over last season, and in particular this season, really except for the shooting woes of December, work his way into being, somebody that probably is better off being a 6, 7, 8 player in a rotation than maybe a starter. But certainly on this team, given where things have stood, he's proven himself to be a starting caliber player. Erwin Kwong, if Gui is worth 5 per, then what about Quentin Post? Well, less than that at this point for Quentin Post. And I'm looking at the Warriors' salary. No disrespect to QP, but and I'm looking at Quentin Post. He's at 1.9. So Post had been making less than Gui even for this year, 1.9. So, yeah, I mean, I think, Quentin Post might, you could get him a slight raise over that. But again, I think the Warriors in a perfect world, he's somebody that would continue to develop, but also probably be more the third true center on a roster that would feature Al Horford and potentially Kristaps Porzingis. So 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Let's get a couple more here. Let's do two more. We'll take our final timeout. Fozzie, does this mean Draymond's coming off the bench now? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I do think Draymond, although I don't think that it's completely off the table that Draymond at some point does wind up coming off the bench. I feel like that Fozzie's going to be more of a next year conversation if Draymond Green is still on the roster, but it might not be a next year conversation at the beginning of the year, because if they do play it out and bring Jimmy Butler back, I mean, this team is still going to be, I think, void of some. We just have to see how it shakes out. Like, is Horford on the team? Is Melton on the team? I mean, that in some ways has become one of the more alarming, concerning things for the Warriors, is how dependent they've been on Melton and Horford. And Melton and Horford both have the ability to walk in the offseason, opt out, get paid, and move forward with another team. And that would leave the Warriors, you could have this sort of nice, around 500 post Jimmy finish, post Jimmy injury finish with Steph, out and then coming back, and maybe give a team hell in a first round series. And you could feel really good about where this team is at if they add in the offseason, but then you could immediately feel really bad about where this team would be heading if you wind up losing players like Melton and Horford, even though you keep somebody like a Gui Santos. All right, let's take a timeout here. 808 KMBR. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up in the YouTube chat. We'll set the table for tonight, Warriors and the Lakers, and we'll continue the conversation. Just Dubs, JD, Kyle Har, Raf Corral, all here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR, the Sports Leader. Live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Just Dubs with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader, streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
All right, final segment, final 5-6 minutes or so here before we get you to Giants baseball. Giants and the Athletics are coming your way here on the Sports Leader. We'll have Dubs OT for you around 8 o'clock. Stop by at Harmonic Brewing if you're coming to the ball game tonight. But let's go rapid fire here. The breaking news of the morning is the Warriors agreeing to a contract extension with Gui Santos, 3 years, $15 million per ESPN, with an opt-out for Gui following the 2027-28 season. So basically, Gui locked in for the next 2 years, 3 if he wants it. If Gui continues to ascend, he can obviously opt out and get paid again coming up here in 2 years. So Gui Santos with the Warriors for this year, again, locked in for at least the next 2, if not 3. And Gui Santos really becoming a formidable role player who has been an ascending player for the Warriors here of late. And so they lock him up before he becomes what would have been a restricted free agent. Let's go rapid fire here. Final 4.5 minutes. Kyle's clicks in the YouTube chat to close out the show. Budacat. Future doesn't still seem very bright for this team. Sorry to be a downer, but next year could look a lot like this year. I mean, that's just reality at this point. I mean, a couple of things can be equally true. Re-upping Gui Santos at the number that they did is a nice move. It's an appropriate move. It's a forward-thinking move, but it's definitely not a needle mover in terms of, going to pry open the contender window. It's a guy you want to have around. And again, I think when you start to look at the potential for the Warriors to lose Horford and Melton, who have basically been, I think, their third and fourth most important players throughout the course of this season, when you already know you're not going to have Jimmy for half of the year next year, and Steph's status has been more in and out, up and down as the season has gone on, there are some big-time question marks. I mean, that's just reality, and I don't blame anybody, Budacat, that's a little concerned about next year being a different version of this year, because this year was a different version of the year before, and the year before was a different version of that year, and all of that. So in areas in which they improve, they also find areas in which they decline, and it kind of winds up adding up to the same. Joke's on you. And Kirk can't develop anyone. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Moses Moody, by the way, now paid. Gui Santos paid. I would imagine Brandon Podziemski winds up paid to some level among those who Steve Kerr has developed. And look, Pods, when he doesn't shoot the ball well, it's still, even though he puts up other numbers, doesn't look great. But Podziemski's been playing better basketball, I think, a little bit more consistently than he had prior to that. All right, let's continue here in the chat. About 3 more minutes. Andis Brown, I'm really curious what Melton's number will be. he's going to get a good contract. Again, I think, and it depends on what teams have money, but I do think teams, non-tax paying teams, I don't know that teams would have in that $15 million range in terms of cap space to offer Melton, but I do think the teams that have that non-taxpayer mid-level exception available to them would love to bring somebody like DeAnthony Melton in, and I do think it would be around that $14 million a year starting point. Is it 4 years because of the injury history? Maybe not. Maybe it's more like 2 to 3 at that level. But I think the Warriors are probably going to be in a position where they're going to have to match, if not beat, other teams' offers for Melton. I do think a bunch of teams would be willing to give him in the $10 million range a year with raises if they wind up having the salary cap space to do it. But I would say at this point, the Warriors' only path to keep Melton would be to be able to offer him the non-taxpayer mid-level, which would equate to about $14-15 million a year over, and then you would spread that over 3 to 4 years as a max. All right, let's get from Andis to Ian J. If Al and Porzingis are healthy, I see Draymond playing less. Yeah, without a doubt. I think we're kind of seeing the future for Draymond Green if he winds up on this Warriors team over the last month. It's going to be more games where he's in the 20s. It's going to be more games where he gets the planned nights off. And it's going to be more games where he isn't a member of the Warriors closing lineup. And I think at the expense. But you have to have other players that can come in and fill the void and be out there. And so that means you have to have guys that are better players. And to this point, Al has proven himself to be that. Porzingis has to prove that he can still get out there. Let's get to Antonio Funk. If Post develops into a real 5, the Dubs might have something. I still think he's a ways away. I think he's declined a little bit this year, regressed probably a little bit this year. Somebody that I'd be more comfortable with is kind of a third big as opposed to maybe a second big. Or certainly a starting big moving forward. Let's do one more. We'll get out of here. Our final one, Andis. Guy's only 23, so he can get paid in the future if his trajectory continues up. Yeah, he can get paid at 25. That's a really nice deal for Guy. I think an appropriate raise. He's surely going to get the 15 if he flames out or has injury with that third-year player option. But then he also has the ability, if he continues to ascend, to opt out and get paid again, and only at that point be 25. So yeah, Gui Santos is in a real nice position, and then maybe get paid again. He could get another deal even before he's even 30 if he proves himself to be somebody that's going to be in the league for a long time. Kyle, great stuff. Really appreciate you, Raph. Thanks to you as well, my friend. Enjoy Giants baseball throughout the morning here and on into the afternoon. And we'll talk to you again tonight, Kyle.
Yeah, sounds good. And definitely happy for Guy. What a player. What a player. Love that guy.
Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody who jumped in on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll talk to you tonight right here on the Sports Leader.